Trump's stacking up wins, and the political party is in panic mode. Military policy resets, tariff walls back up, cartels exposed on camera, and Joe Biden's approval on crime. Dump truck juice. If you're tired of spin and ready for the facts, please smash that like button, turn on those notifications, and ring that bell so you don't miss a drop of truth. Let's get into it.
Hurry up.
In this first piece, the military returns to standards.
We do have some breaking news out of the Supreme Court. The court will allow the Trump administration to begin enforcing a ban on transgender service members. The justices were, however, divided on this. Let's go to CNN Chief Legal Affairs correspondent Paula Reed. Paula, tell us what the court decided here.
Brianna, this is a big victory for the Trump administration. As you may remember, this ban is one of the first policies that President Trump put forth during the early days of his administration, but it has been tied up, like many of his policies, in the lower courts. But his lawyers kept telling me that they were confident if they could get this policy and many others before the conservative supermajority at the Supreme Court, that they would be allowed to proceed. And here the Supreme Court is allowing the administration to move forward with a ban on transgender individuals in military service. Now, under this ban, service members who have a current diagnosis or history of or exhibit symptoms consistent with gender dysmorphia will be processed for separation from military service. The Pentagon will also not allow transgender Americans to join any branch of the military. Now, as you noted, the three liberal justices dissented from the decision, but did not explain their position.
This isn't just a policy shift, it's a return to reality. President Trump made it clear from day one, our military is not a playground for woke politics. And the Supreme Court just gave that mission the green light. Gender dysphoria isn't a qualification for combat. It's a disqualifier, period. The Pentagon can now focus on strength, standards, and service, not slogans and symbolism.
But again, a very notable victory for the administration because the long game that they are playing here is to try to get all of these policies before the Supreme Court in the hope that most, if not all of them, will ultimately be upheld.
The United States Supreme Court today is allowing Donald Trump's ban on transgender people serving in the military to go into effect. That's despite the fact that lower courts had blocked the policy and said it was not supported by evidence and that it violated equal protection principles. The Supreme Court granted the government's emergency application to allow the ban to be implemented while challenges moved through the courts in a brief, unsigned decision, which noted that the three liberal justices dissented. The legal groups representing the plaintiffs said in response to the ruling, quote, the court has temporarily sanctioned a policy that has nothing to do with military readiness and everything to do with prejudice. Transgender individuals meet the same standards and demonstrate the same values as all who serve.
So what happens now?
Those discharges can begin. The litigation, however, Kira, does continue. It's in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals out in California. That means ultimately the Supreme Court could actually take up this case on the merits. But what the court is signaling today is that the President of the United States is owed broad deference over how the military is run and who they can allow into the military. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has argued that transgender service members pose a problem for unit cohesion and military readiness, lethality. Although judges have found no evidence of that. But today, again, with this Supreme Court decision, the administration can move forward with the same policy it had back in the first term, removing those service members, around 4,000 of them, though the Biden administration allowed them to serve. So a dramatic change and a real setback for those who did serve and those who have sacrificed for their country.
We are leaving wokeness and weakness behind. No more pronouns. No more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that shit. We're focused on lethality, meritocracy, accountability, standards, and readiness.
Did you hear that one? It's called strategy. Trump didn't just fight battles, He played the long game. He knew once the court leaned constitutional again, the policies would stick. The left kept pushing soft power, and Trump, he pushed legal power. And now it's showing up in court decisions all over the map. In this next excerpt, Trump faces Canada and doesn't flinch.
Just to clarify, Mr. President, is there anything the minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he can say to you in the course of your meetings with him today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
What's your first
state?
Yeah.
If Canadians don't want it, would you respect that?
Sure, I would. But this is not necessarily a one-day deal. This is over a period of time they have to make that decision.
And to your question about is there one thing? No, this is a bigger discussion. There are much bigger forces involved, and this will take some time and some discussions, and that's why we're here, to have those discussions, and that is represented by who's sitting around the table.
See, the conflict is, and this is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation, but we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we speak. We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves.
Direct, unshaken. Trump didn't flinch. I believe he made that one crystal clear. If you take advantage of Americans, we're done playing nice. Canada wanted the perks without the price, and Trump told them those days are over. She gone. In this next excerpt, the globalists complain.
But talk about the tariffs specifically. Michigan, there in Detroit, it's the only place in the states that I know of where you actually go south to go to Canada. I mean, and the way that Detroit and Windsor, Ontario have been sort of integrated all this time, the way the auto industry, vehicles cross borders, parts of vehicles cross borders. How is that impacting people in your state?
Yeah, we are a border state. We border Canada, and so our relationship with Canada and that border is very critical to our own specific economic power and influence and prosperity. And so all of this has created a lot of damage to our state's economy in particular. And also the fact that we build things in Michigan is a great thing. We want to build more things in Michigan. That's one of the things that has helped our economy thrive. But at the same time, these reckless tariffs have not been specific enough to help us build more things. They've only caused a lot of economic pain and duress.
Oh, I get it. Now you care about building things. Where was all of that concern when the globalist deals hollowed out the Midwest? Trump didn't break the system, he exposed it. And if fixing it caused pain, that's what real leadership looks like. It actually costs something. In this next video piece, Trump exposes the real trade numbers.
But they want to negotiate, and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
But you haven't met with them yet.
I have not met with them. Of course, you would know if I met. I'd tell you. They want to meet, but we are right now. Look, they're suffering greatly. Their economy is suffering greatly because they're not doing trade with the U.S. and they made most of their money off the U.S. Don't kid yourself. They don't make the money off other countries like this. And they were making. We had a trade imbalance. We had a deficit, or they had a surplus. Another way of saying it, of more than $1 trillion. Think of it, more than $1 trillion. And because of 145%, that's the only reason, but because of they have now 145% tariff, there's no trading. You can't trade with 145%.
This is exactly what the media never explained, but Trump did. He laid out exactly how bad the imbalance was. What you can't do is negotiate with countries that are slapping 145% tariffs on your exports. That's not trade, that's theft. And old Trump called it out. In this next excerpt, fair trade, not fake diplomacy.
The world has been coming to the U.S., and China has been the missing piece.
I was going to be in Switzerland to negotiate with the Swiss. Turns out the Chinese team is traveling through Europe, and they will be in Switzerland also. So we will meet on Saturday and Sunday. And look, we have shared interest that this isn't sustainable, as I said before, especially on the Chinese side. And 145%, 125% is the equivalent of an embargo. We don't want to decouple. What we want is fair trade.
Let's clear this one up. Trump was never anti-China. He is anti-unfair. He didn't want conflict. He wanted respect, and for the people. And respect, it doesn't come from appeasement. It comes from strength. That's why they were willing to meet, and that's why they listened. In this next video, real chemical warfare regarding fentanyl.
So we've just entered an area of the city that is still very dangerous. After weeks of trying, our contact here on the ground has managed to secure a meeting with a member of the cartel who's involved apparently in the production of drugs. And so we're meeting him now in somewhere around here in an undisclosed location. ¿Cómo estás? This man is talking to us on the condition we hide his identity and location. Can I pull up a chair? He says he produces fentanyl for the Sinaloa cartel. How safe or dangerous is this area to be in?
En estos momentos todas las áreas son peligrosas.
The Mexican military are making a big effort to crack down on the drug production here. How are you responding to that, and how does that impact your work?
Están haciendo un buen trabajo, pero pues como ellos vienen más, pues uno tiene que buscar la forma de seguir trabajando. Claro, en baja escala, ¿entiendes? Pero no igual como antes, pero se sigue haciendo.
This should have been national outrage. A cartel operative on camera admitting to flooding the streets with poison. But tell me this, people, where's the coverage? Where's the outcry? While the media fixates on drag shows and slogans, Americans are dying by the thousands from fentanyl, and it's being treated like a footnote. In this next piece, cartels aren't hiding, they're talking.
I mean, according to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación, ¿verdad? Está fea la situación, pero pues todos tenemos que comer.
What's your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
Mi respeto, él tiene que según él buscar lo mejor para los suyos. Pero el detalle que ya están los consumidores, pues. Si no hubiera consumidores, pues uno le parara.
Wait. Let me get this straight. Cartels are giving televised rebuttals on U.S. policy. That is exactly what weakness invites. Under Trump, they were on the run. And under Biden, they're doing press. If that doesn't tell you how far we've fallen, then I don't know what does. Watch this next excerpt. The people, they know who brings order.
All right, net approval rating handling crime. What do we have here? We have a positive rating for Donald Trump, even in the most recent polling. Look at that, at plus 2 points. Far better than Joe Biden, who was so far underwater. My goodness, he was setting records at minus 26 points. You rarely ever see it. So Donald Trump ran in part on law and order. It was one of the reasons that he got elected. And at this particular point, Americans like what they're hearing from him on the issue of crime. And you see this right here with a plus 2 net approval rating, far better than Joe Biden left office with back in 2024.
That's the pulse of the nation. The people don't want speeches anymore. They want safety. And when it comes to law and order, Trump still owns the lane. The numbers, they aren't just better, they're decisive. And you can't fake that kind of credibility. In this next video, legal sabotage exposed.
Short of that, what can we do? I mean, we've done everything within our power to solve that problem. And remember the stats. I think it's 67% of all national injunctions issued against a president in the last 100 years were against one president. His name's Donald J. Trump. 90% of those were from openly, Democrat-appointed judges that many would regard as this other judge as activists or people venue shop to get in their courts.
You want to talk about coordination? There it is. One man, one term, and 2/3 of the legal sabotage in a century. That's not organic, people. That's called sabotage. And still, he stood tall. While they buried him in lawsuits, he kept pushing forward. In this next excerpt, fighting back against rogue judges.
So we all know it's a real problem. It's not what the Founding Fathers intended. So what can we do? Using our power in the House, Darrell Iss's bill is a great response. The No Rogue Rulings Act would prohibit a single individual judge from issuing a nationwide injunction like that to stop the entire policy of an administration. I think that is a very common sense standard, and one that would kind of get back to the original intent and eliminate the ability of just one act.
This one is long overdue. One rogue judge should never have the power to block an entire elected administration. Trump, he didn't just complain, he actually proposed a fix. And now they're scrambling because it threatens the very trick they used to stop him from day one. The bottom line here is the comeback is real. Trump's dismantling the machine piece by piece. Courts, trade, national security, public safety. He's not just running again, he's returning with receipts. The Supreme Courts, they back him. The cartels, they fear him. And the polls are catching up to what we already knew. He never stopped fighting, and now he's just getting started. If you're done with the noise and ready for the truth, you're in the right place, people. Please, do us the best free favor you can. Smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification because the next wave is coming.
Listen.